Here at People Forward Network, we pride ourselves on delivering stellar shows for people first business leaders just like you. And some episodes are just too impactful to share only once. Today, we're re-releasing one of those gems. Enjoy! The information provided in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice.
Hey, it's Nikki. Thrilled to hand the mic over to our friends at TestRxMD. You might remember David and me sharing our pretty in-depth health journey last year, from a devastating diagnosis to our taking health by the driver's seat. We chose to partner A to B first with the health professionals that have helped us most. Collectively, David and I, we lost over 60 pounds, and so many other aspects of our health have us feeling more lively and confident these days. So look, we're on a learning journey with you, and we know you agree. Health is so crucial to our ability to live our best lives. P.S. Don't wait to hit this team up at TestRxMD for a free concierge coaching call. There's a link in the show notes, or feel free to ask us. But this action could be the start of a whole new you. It was for us. So I'm passing the mic to our partners at TestRxMD.
Hey guys, John Nieters here. I'm joined by co-owner of TestRxMD, Leslie Snider, and Dr. Saddoris. We're going to be focusing on weight loss today, specifically talking about GLP-1s and other methodologies to attain the ideal weight. We'll get into details on the mechanism of action, as well as other ways that you can make sure that you aren't having runaway weight issues. Not only will you look good, but you'll feel good as well. So I want to pass the mic over to Leslie to have him give a brief introduction about himself and his history in the health and fitness industry.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been in the fitness nutrition business for about 25 years. I've owned multiple gyms, nutrition companies over those years, and I taught specific ways on how to lose weight, calories in versus calories out. And then I started to really dive in the last couple of years on hormones and the roles that they play in weight loss. And through the years, it was always like, oh, you're not doing what I'm telling you to do. If you're not losing weight, calories in versus calories out, it's simple. It's simple, right? No, it's not that simple, right? So again, and then, we met, and, it's just opened my mind. And I was a yo-yo dieter even as a trainer back 25 years ago. I would cut calories, lose the weight. Next thing you know, it's, you can't cut calories all the way down to zero. So at some point, those calories reintroduce themselves. So, and then when I started to really dive into the role my hormones play is when I really started to see sustainable results. So just a little background on how I got to this point.
Awesome. Thank you, Leslie. And now what about you, Dr. Saddoris?
Yes, I'm Dr. Saddoris, and I'm board certified in internal medicine, but I'm also certified a lipidologist. And that's when I first encountered the GLP-1s, long before they ever became popular. And as I looked at its mechanism of action, I thought to myself, why are they not using this for weight loss or even treating people with diabetes or preventing diabetes? Because its mechanism is fundamental and able to help restore yourself back to a normal range. This is one of the hormones in our body that, as we age and as we develop belly fat, it becomes less and less in our system. And as it becomes less in our system, we start really gaining abdominal fat and developing diabetes as a result of it. And so part of the weight loss journey is not only trying to treat that problem, but also people to understand that you develop all these toxic chemicals when you have excess carbohydrates in your system. And these toxic chemicals interfere with the function of your mitochondria, which burn energy. It affects the way that you no longer absorb those carbs into your muscles properly, and how they are all transmitted into more belly fat, and just creates this snowballing effect that just gets worse and worse. And even when you try to lose weight, unfortunately, once you develop metabolic syndrome, it's very difficult to get the weight off. So it has a three-pronged effect. You have to work on the medical part, but also the diet, which Leslie is going to bring up, and also the exercise, because what we're focused on is abdominal fat. We don't want to lose muscle because muscle is what needed to help maintain our metabolism. The less muscle you have, the less calories you burn. That's why, people that are muscle builders, they can eat thousands and thousands of calories and they can lose weight, And I even approach that and I'm gaining it just looking at it. So our bodies are different. And so we focus at TestRx is seeing every person as a unique person and addressing their unique needs.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then my background, I played tennis at a pretty high level when I was younger, trained at tennis academies. Fitness has always been a very large portion of my life. I'd say Leslie probably has even more of a background in the workout regimen and the workout space and meal plans and meal preps and all that. Even though I do have considerable knowledge and experience in that area, he's kind of the go-to guy on that. Both my parents are physicians. Dr. Saddoris happens to be my mother. And so I've always had a knack for helping and healing people. And I believe I truly get that from my mother, which is a beautiful blessing to have that gift. We definitely want to touch on the fact that GLP-1s are not like the magic bullet of weight loss, right? You can't just expect that you can take this injection once a week and not have to do anything else. I mean, it's not the cure-all, end-all for everything. The way we like to use it at TestRx, though, is one part of your comprehensive health journey, right? So we like to basically use it in the beginning of your weight loss journey so that it basically can help reinforce all of the good, positive life changes that you're making to achieve that weight loss so that you understand, okay, this is working. I'm breaking through these walls and it can reinforce those good activities in your life. So now let's kind of switch gears a little bit and we'll kind of get into the other aspects of what a comprehensive health weight loss plan would be at a concierge-based service like ours. We'll get into the weight management portion through meal prep, meal plans, and exercise regimens. And go ahead, Leslie.
So over the past couple decades, I see countless amount of people, they would come into the gym and they would just work their tails off. You do cardio until the cows come home. Let's do cardio for 60 minutes. And then you see them consistently come in and do this. I was like, you're working way harder than you need to see these results, right? To see the results that you desire, pretty much, because they're not seeing results because their eating habits are atrocious. There's a saying out there, and everybody's probably heard it: you cannot outrun a bad diet. Impossible, right? But yeah, so I've always taken the approach of like it's a holistic approach, really. So you got different styles of training in the gym, whether it's cardio session, whether that be slow, steady cardio, or whether that's the intermittent kind of like HIT, high intensity interval training, where you work really hard, bring the heart rate up, come back down, right? That's what I enjoy doing. I don't like the slow, steady. I got what I call cardio ADD. You put me on a treadmill for more than 15 minutes and I'm going to go mad, right? So and then we want to also introduce the strength training aspect of it. So we need to, support the muscles. We can't just, do cardio without, you can do anything, but for best results, we want to do both, cardio, stretch, strength training. We don't need to go in the gym for 60 minutes and hit free weights for 60 whole minutes. You can go to the gym for 60 minutes. We can do our warm-ups, stretching, 20, 30 minutes of weights, and then do the rest cardio, right? And then that's not to even mention the sleep aspect, right? So we have to also make sure that we're getting proper recovery. But yeah, those are all a holistic approach to long-term success and building habits. Weight loss, just like weight gain, is time dependent. Nobody that's listening to us right now that's overweight woke up 50 pounds heavier. That took them time to be able to do that. So weight loss is also time dependent. And the consistency is where people start to see the results. It's not going to kill you if you miss a day at the gym. It's not going to kill you if you enjoy a birthday party and a slice of cake and some ice cream. It's not going to kill you. Just remember, put that to use tomorrow, right? So put those calories to use tomorrow in the gym and go at it.
Thank you for that, Leslie. And one thing that I was always kind of taught is however long it took you to put the weight on is how long you should expect for it to take off, right? And I love how you touched on that.
Yeah, I think it takes longer actually to take it off than it does to put it on, Yeah, especially as we get older. And, I am on TRT. I've been on testosterone replacement therapy, since I was 40 years old. I'm now 50. But yeah, so that's, we got to get those hormones, right.
Yeah, I really like the part that you also mentioned sleep. People really need to be looking at about 8 hours of sleep, because sleep is a restoration that's happening in our body. But more importantly, it's kind of helping our circadian rhythm so that where hormones kick in at certain times, and that's why you get hungry at certain times. And so when we don't have a regular sleep-wake cycle, it really messes up with our eating habits. When our hormones kick in, they kick in at the wrong times, and you get cravings and you're overeating and you feel tired and fatigued, and then you can't sleep at night, and it just has a really negative effect on your whole body and your sense of well-being. But, I know at TestRx, it's more than just simply giving you a prescription of a GLP-1 for assessing weight loss. First we always assess to see if they have a thyroid condition, which can certainly affect their metabolic state. Certain people, we also check their hormone levels, especially in men that may be having low energy. They have a lot of fatigue. They're noticing that all the workouts they're doing, they're gaining belly fat and losing muscle, and they start not feeling good about themselves. And people failed to realize that low testosterone is more than just feeling better. You can develop Alzheimer's from low testosterone. You can develop osteoporosis, where you start breaking bones. You can also develop severe depression from it. Diabetes is also a serious concern, because as your low testosterone goes down, then your insulin levels start not functioning properly, and you develop belly fat. So we're looking at lots of other causes besides just using that as a treatment. Yes, it is a strong treatment, but we need to look at all aspects of the person to determine what's best for them.
What happens in men when you get low testosterone? What happens to your estrogen levels and the effect that higher estrogen, I guess it would be correct? What effect would that have on the body?
Yeah, I think both men and women both produce testosterone and estrogen. But when one level, like in a man, drops on the testosterone level, part of that testosterone is converted into estrogen. So some men may not have an elevated estrogen level per se, but when you look at the ratio of the testosterone to the estrogen, then that would be abnormally different. But estrogen itself is what really triggers abdominal fat. It also increases blood clots. And then it also can cause some breast enlargement in men. And then, men need that drive of the testosterone in order to have them feel good about themselves. It has a great mental effect. It can cause severe depression in men, even to the point of suicide at times, when their testosterone's so low, because they just feel like they have no motivation to do anything, and they feel like a failure. And it just gets escalated in their mind, and sometimes they feel it's just not worth it, and they do something about it, which is not a good thing that they choose. So.
And you specialize in that too, right?
Yes, I do a lot of addiction treatment and mental health care, And so I'm very familiar with how the mental health is so important in terms of treatment. I think any treatment, if you're not treating the mental part along with the physical, and I think also the spiritual part, that person is not going to be as complete and get the best benefits they need in their life. The spiritual is finding ways to calm yourself, to have peace with yourself, to be no longer struggling against things. Because anytime you're stressed or anxious, you raise your cortisol level. And cortisol level is our stress hormone, but it is also the hormone that causes weight gain. And it is also what causes all the diabetes problems, can cause cardiovascular problems. And so it's not a hormone that our body has ever been meant to deal with. Because stress was only meant to be if you were about ready to be eaten by a lion and you needed to run, right? And it would release all this sugar and this cortisol and your heart rate would zoom up and because you're surviving. But unfortunately, minor stressors, the brain doesn't recognize a minor stress from survival stress. And so it releases all those tremendous hormones at the same time as if you were going to be attacked by a lion. And so when those things build up over time, and that's why we have such high cardiovascular disease and such high diabetes, increase in cancers in our body, because our immune systems become affected. So it is something that is very negative for our system, and we were never built to stay in that sustained high stress state.
I truly love how you added that spiritual side of things. And that's just so crucial since in society, we're literally drawn to so many marketing gimmicks constantly that are trying to keep you at not necessarily peak fear, which can be part of it, but peak interest. So it's trying to grab your attention from every aspect or every single place you look. How do you stay centered? How do you stay grateful? How do you stay thankful to attract more of what you want, which also enables your brain to work much more efficiently, as well as attracting everything that you want in your life?
When you mentioned the cortisol thing really fascinates me. How do people, clients, patients, how do they deal with the elevated cortisol levels? How do we fix that issue long term?
Very simple. Sometimes things that are so simple people don't want. They want a pill to fix it. And what they need to do is get centered in themselves. They need to get into a quiet space where they're not having interruption. And they need to focus on what's important to them, right? What is their core things that they love to do? And I say the things that you love to do are the things that you're meant to develop. But when you're joyful about the things that you're doing and that you love doing what you want, you're going to draw that positivity into your life. But if you're doing a ho-hum job that you hate and you're miserable and you have a lot of people that are miserable around you, it just makes it so difficult to get out of that negative state. And so sometimes you have to be aware, I have a problem. And the only way I can get through that problem is first be aware that I have it. Because if I give someone advice, they're just going to be angry at me for saying something to them if they're not ready to receive that. And so once we start becoming happy with ourselves, and we start liking ourselves and start loving ourselves, because how can we love somebody else if we can't love ourselves? And this is not being selfish. This is called self-care. And when we start taking care of ourselves and listening to our own heart and not what others tell us, like, you can never be a doctor, you can never be this, you can never be that. And those kind of weigh you down and they put like shackles to you that keep you from moving forward in your life. And even when you have negative experiences in your life, you have to realize that that is not who you are. That's what you experienced in your past. But you weren't meant to carry it forward and keep you stuck there. You were meant to learn from it, grow from it, and move on from it. And that's the only way that you can start developing inner peace. And when you have inner peace, your stress levels are not up there, okay? Because you no longer worry about the outcome because you're doing what you love and your outcome will just take care of itself. I always say money always follows the people that are truly doing what they absolutely love to do, because they become experts in it and they excel in it. And it doesn't matter whether something is successful or not, because they're still doing what they love.
Beautifully said, I think. So yeah, sorry about that. I know we got a little bit off the GLP-1s, but I literally felt myself become more relaxed. Like literally, like I almost was like, picture myself, I'm in the corner at the gym, the lights are off in the special little room, and I'm doing my whole like breathing techniques and all that. So yes, thank you for that. Now I feel way more relaxed.
I love that too. And what I've found too, I mean, obviously learning from my mother, Dr. Saddoris, is when things happen to you, things happen to everyone, right? But they're all good because they're all either meant to teach you something, to grow from it, if it's potentially perceived as negative, or it's things to reaffirm whatever you're doing, right? So regardless, all is good, and regardless of the situation, and that is exactly how you build that inner peace, and understanding that everything that happens to you, the way you perceive it and attach that emotional attachment, whether it be negative or positive, don't do that. Just stay neutral and understand that everything is built to help you in every sense of the word.
So just a little quick thing on that. When I was growing up, my father, he would always, something would happen, something bad happened, just something minor, really. You get, you need 4 new tires, or you got a flat tire. It's like, my father was the guy that's like, son, you're a Snider. You got bad luck forever. It's never going to be good. So everything is dead to you. That was him, like, just deal with it. You're always going to have bad luck. And I'm just like, as I got older, and I'm like, and it frustrated me as an adult when he would do that. And to bring us back in a little bit, he passed away at 64 years old from complications of diabetes, and I think his inability to deal with life issues, using the spoon and the fork to deal with those issues, I think, and he just literally, we had many conversations, and he could not control his eating. Now, if he would have been the GLP-1 drugs, would those have helped him? Great segue, right?
It would have helped him some, but you still have to work on that mental aspect, because when you're feeling bad inside, food does raise your dopamine in your brain. And so it gives you a temporary feeling of pleasure, but then it turns into hate because of what its effects it does on your body. And so we need to find ways of raising our dopamine in our brain, which is the part that gives us the energy and drive and pleasure in our life. You can do that by meditation, so.
But he would tell me that when his blood sugar levels would get to 100, which is normal, right? He would feel sick. And if it was around 400 or whatever, how high it would get, it would get crazy high. That's when he felt good.
That's because his insulin levels were so high. See, when you develop diabetes, what happens is your insulin doesn't work very well. So because it doesn't work very well, your body produces more and more insulin for it to try to work. And so if he has a 400 blood sugar and he's been running around that range, he has a ton of insulin present. So when he suddenly cuts his carbohydrates down, then he's going to feel like he has a low sugar reaction. He gets lightheaded, he gets shaky. So those are things that you have to taper down. We see that a lot with people that, take insulin. They start losing weight, and yet they're taking the old dose of insulin, and suddenly they get a low sugar reaction. It's because they don't need that much. So, someone that's, has very high sugars, and we start reducing their carbohydrates intake and go it gradually so they don't get into the low sugar reactions.
It's nice you said that too, because that also kind of segues into how and why you dose the GLP-1s the way that you do, especially when onboarding a patient. There's so many patients that come in, just always have the mindset of, more is better. And I mean, I don't even want to get into the number of guys that think that way with testosterone, but I mean, that's a whole other subject. But I mean, people come in with that same kind of mindset when it comes to the GLP-1s. And, you know, it's always good to be informed about the reason why you titrate and dose, and the reason why you wouldn't want to just hop in at, let's just say, 50 units a week or something like that. So would you like to add into why you medically would do that?
Sure. I think the GLP-1s work differently in different people. And I think part of it is just depends on kind of what their reservoir is. You know, some people may only have a mild deficiency, and so stimulating what they have might produce a lot. And other people may have very little ability to produce it. And so sometimes to stimulate it, you need more. But you always start low because you don't know how that person is going to respond. But more importantly, they have to understand portion control. You know, nobody talks to them about, you know, you're going to suddenly feel full because GLP-1 basically blocks ghrelin, which is what causes you to have an appetite. When you try to eat what you used to eat, even though you're not hungry because you lost the ability to sense, you know, ghrelin's effect, when you're on a GLP-1, it will make you feel miserable. Your stomach will feel bloated, you'll feel nauseous, and it can last for 3 or 4 days afterwards. Some people vomit from it. So I tell them right off the bat, whatever you typically eat, I want you to cut it in half and then take half of that, make a fourth of what you typically eat. If after you eat the fourth and you're still hungry, not that it tasted good, but if you're still hungry, you know, eat 1 or 2 bites more, but wait about 20 minutes before you decide to eat any more than that, because it takes that long for your brain to perceive fullness. And so when you do it slow like that, people tolerate it fine. They don't have the issues of the severe abdominal cramping, the nausea. I also have them take either something like Prilosec, which is a PPI they can get over the counter, or they could also take Pepcid, which will help reduce acid reflux because, again, it slows motility in your stomach. So food normally would rush through, and that's why you just couldn't feel full because it was emptying out into your intestines very quickly. Here it stays in your stomach much longer, and so you can get more reflux from it. But by delaying the release, allows your body to slowly metabolize what you ate, whereas the other one, you were getting a sugar dump into your system. And this is going to make it so it's more evenly being released into your body. And what we try to do is avoid insulin spiking. Usually if you eat more than 25 grams of carbohydrates at a time, your insulin levels will rise. And so I try to keep them at 25 grams every 4 hours is the max that they take, so we don't stimulate insulin. Because insulin is what turns everything they eat into belly fat. Until we start getting the abdominal fat off, they're going to convert every calorie of carbohydrates that's above 25 into abdominal fat. I'm not eliminating their carbs. I'm just basically slowing the amount they get so that they don't get insulin released with them.
Insulin and cortisol are storage hormones, correct?
That's correct. Insulin by itself is a great hormone because it delivers sugar to the muscles and gives energy that you need it. But when you have excess carbohydrates that form into triglycerides, which instead of tri, they become digads, which is diacyl glycerides, those actually interfere with insulin function. And so it affects the muscle to be absorbing it. And so the muscles would get more tired, more fatigued by doing weightlifting. They don't have the endurance. And then it's also making it convert into all those digads into the abdominal fat and producing more abdominal fat. So it becomes a vicious cycle, and it can be very challenging to try to break that. But working on the diet and controlling the carbohydrates and trying to limit insulin release, and also working on the exercise component and the sleep component, which is just equally important. And then dealing with their emotional regulations of, a lot of times, why are we eating? Is it boredom? Is it stress? Some people are stress eaters. And so we need to find alternate ways to deal with stress. We also need to find ways to deal with boredom. And so,
Social.
yeah, have to become more around people, maybe get engaged in more activities so that you're not to the overwhelming part, but being able to have some engaging activities with other people allows a person to not feel isolated and alone.
So what about adding like a bulk fiber, like say Metamucil, to slow down that digestion?
Well, you can add fiber. It doesn't really slow the digestion, the Metamucil. What it does is it draws fluid into the intestinal tract to make the stools more bulky, and then helps people with having a bowel movement. And a lot of times, taking a fiber product while you're on a GLP-1 helps some, because a lot of times you're eating a lot less and you're eating less carbs, so you are getting less fiber. So sometimes you can get constipated. And I like Metamucil because it can treat both constipation and diarrhea. If you're having loose stools, then you reduce the amount of water that you have with your Metamucil. And if your stools are hard, you just increase the amount of water intake that you take with it. And so that way you can regulate based on you. Because some people are constipated, some people have loose stools. And so you can adjust it according to what their issues they're going through.
I do love the fact that you touched on, getting to the root cause of the weight loss, right? Because it just seems like medicine today is, hey, let's get this pill in them and, go about it that way, especially when you're dealing with insurance companies, and let's see how many different, pills we can get them on to maximize that, for all the corporate interest, right? It's sad, but true in Western medicine. So it's always a nice flip when you actually get providers who aren't just trying to push pills. They're really trying to figure out what's going on and how can you optimize the body as a system, right? And I think that that's key all the way around. So I really like that you mentioned that as well.
I just do want people to know that they are individual, just like everyone looks different. You're also different on the inside. And you have to be aware that there isn't a cookie cutter treatment. You have to be individually assessed. And, some people, they do great with a low carb diet, but there are some people that don't. And so we have to assess how it works for you. And I would say the majority of people, 80% low carbs are effective. But there are the 20%ers that the carbohydrates doesn't seem to cut it for them. And we have to find other reasons. Is their mitochondria not functioning as well? Do we need to give them, ways to cleanse their body and get the toxins out so the mitochondria can work? Do they have adequate methylfolate in their system? Because that's needed for the mitochondria to function. Do they have adequate B12? And so we just have to assess each person and their success and their challenges and see which is the one that works best for them.
Yeah, I really like that. And to kind of recap on things that were covered here from a high level before we get to the end of this episode. Number one, every body is significantly different. So it's always key to have a truly personalized and concierge-based plan, because there are many different factors that could be contributing to your weight loss issue. And that's what we're here to solve. So regardless of what route you end up going, just make sure you really ask questions. Ask your provider, why is this leading to this? Or is there a link between this and that? You really want to nail down the truth of the matter and how you can empower your own health to truly make differences in your life. Besides that, any GLP-1 can be a fantastic tool to add to your regimen, but you don't want to just use those as a crutch, because ultimately, if you end up doing it like that, then the second you stop taking it, you're going to probably have some sort of a rebound effect. You never treated the underlying cause, and bam, you're right back where you started, minus the amount of money and time and energy spent on the therapy to begin with. So that's kind of counterproductive in the long term. Any other closing remarks from either of you guys before we say bye to everybody?
No, I'm just excited. This is our first episode, and I appreciate, everybody's time and your guys' time, John and Dr. Saddoris. I appreciate you guys. I've learned so much since, I met the two of you. It's just been amazing for me. So I appreciate both of you.
Yeah, I think one of the goals that I always have is that I'm not just looking short term. I'm always looking long term. How can I improve your immune function? How can I keep your lipids down? How can we reduce stress? How can we keep your weight off? But also, more importantly, your mental health, focusing on those aspects too. So that long term, isn't that what it's all about, is anti-aging? How can I slow the aging process, right? How can I reduce cellular damage to your body? What are the things that I can do to help provide you, not, I always like the anti-aging slogan, die young. Your body is in great shape, so you want to be full of energy. You're looking good, you're feeling good, and that's what you want your life to be, right?
Yeah, it gives you a glow in life. You just walk through life much more stress-free to begin with. So thank you guys both for your time. We look forward to expanding this podcast with you guys and covering topics that even you guys may have an interest in. Obviously, we have, a set number of episodes that we've kind of planned out, but obviously, if there are set things that you guys want us to cover specifically, feel free to comment and we'll make sure that we include those. Obviously, we're going to be covering testosterone replacement therapy, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, peptide therapy, and various other aspects to empower yourself and empower your health as well. So we want to thank you for your time and have a good rest of your guys' day.
So you just listened to this episode. Now, join us in being addicted to betterment. Please subscribe to the show, share with your friends, tag us, and please take a moment, leave a review. Yeah, we do want your stars, but we really want the feedback.